Okay, in this video I want to show how the sequential shifter works, or the bike shifter. First thing you'll do is go to Advanced Engine, go down to Sequential Shift Cut, and it'll bring up this window here. I've got it turned on. I've got it set to auto mode. There's an auto and a button mode. In button mode, it'll only use the button input. In auto mode, you can use either the button or the automatic shift points down here. So say you're on a run and you've got your shift point set to 10,000. But during the run, you want a short shift. You can just go ahead and push the button input, and it will shift it. Anything above 3,500 RPM, it will shift. So it's a good way to have both. You can have an auto shift or the button input at the same time. I'm going to leave it in that mode. We've got our solenoid output. This is for the solenoid on the shifter ram. We have our RPM set point here. Has to be above 3,500. And you can change this to whatever. Throttle position has to be above 75%, and again you can change this to whatever. And the first main setting we have is the delay before spark cut. Now what happens when you activate this with the button input? Checks to make sure we're above the RPM, we're above the throttle position. The first thing it does is energize the solenoid on the shifter ram. And then this is in tenth of a millisecond, so this would be 50 milliseconds. 50 milliseconds later, it will kill the ignition for 80 milliseconds. Now, if we're in first gear, we're going to add 30 milliseconds to that 80. So we got 110 milliseconds of kill time. Now, when I push the button, you should be able to hear the solenoid click here on my stimulator, and it'll be a long pause because we've got 50, 80, and in the 30, we've got 160 milliseconds that solenoid is going to be active. Actually, a little longer because we've got 100 milliseconds of delay down here. So I'll click it. Now, if I move to the next gear, we're going to take 30 milliseconds out of that, and it's pretty quick. So you can set kill times for each gear if you've got it in gear-based delay. You just need to set the additional amount that you want for that particular gear. Again, in tenths of a millisecond. So this would be 30 milliseconds. If you put a 0.05, it would be 50 milliseconds added to it. So you always add to the base number up here. Down here at the solenoid delay, what this is once the solenoid is activated here, for 50 milliseconds above the before the ignition kills. Then depending on what gear you're in, the delays it adds to that. After it's through, after the ignition is cut back in again, it waits 100 milliseconds and then releases the solenoid. That way you know that it made it into gear. And you can set this to whatever again. Reshift hold off time. What this is like a debalance button, so it doesn't let you double shift. So if you accidentally hit the button inside the loop where it's doing the shift, you can set this number to keep from being able to double shift. 100 milliseconds is pretty good. And then down here at the bottom is the RPM shift points for the auto shift. And you can set these at different RPMs for each gear also. If you've set it to button mode, these are just grayed out. There's nothing there because you're just going to use the button. But that's pretty much it for the air shifter control. It's pretty basic and pretty easy to set up. And that's it.